I don't think I'll ever stop praising this series for basically making the source material better. So, for those of you who've never read the comics, don't read the comics. Um, Queen Maeve goes out in a completely different fashion. Basically, she never lights a candle to Homelander in any way, shape, or form. And she basically gets dusted in one punch. Like one punch, and she is gone. And that one punch comes on the end of her never really trying to improve herself. It's basically her making a decision that now's the time I'm going to stand up against Homelander in order to save Starlight, and it gets her killed. The show goes in a completely different direction. So, season one, we get introduced to Maeve, and she totally tanks the armored truck. And it's like, oh shit, she may be really, really strong. And that is reinforced the fact that she's usually called the second strongest suit on the planet. That the only thing that she can't do is basically fly, but she's the female equivalent to Homelander. And of course, with Vought's PR spin, we always look at it as them basically trying to prop Maeve up, and Maeve not actually being as strong as Homelander, her possibly being super weak. But then we see her not only wreck the shit out of Stormfront, but also incapacitate Noir, even if she used his nut allergy to simply KO the man. She was still able to physically manhandle Noir, who was physically manhandling Starlight. So we knew that on some level, in regards to strength, Maeve was up there. But for season 3, we completely saw a different version of Maeve. She was just in her room training the entire time because she had a single focus on her mind, which was killing Homelander and using Butcher to do it. And Butcher had a single focus on his mind as well, which was killing Homelander, until he completely decided to throw that job out the window. But going back to Maeve, she dedicated herself to this. And during the final fight, where Butcher is essentially fighting Soldier Boy before the rest of the boys show up, she decides to take on Homelander. And I like at first, Homelander wasn't taking the fight seriously because he wanted to go and kill Soldier Boy for hurting Ryan. And it's Maeve constantly attacking him that forces him to take the fight seriously. And I thought that they were going to go the comic book route and he was just going to absolutely manhandle her. Absolutely not. My girl had held her own. We've seen hints before that Homelander does know how to fight. He's just lazy and apathetic. He'd rather just laser you and call it a day. He actually had to fight against Maeve. He actually had to defend himself. He actually had to break out of a few holes. He actually had to square up and actually use a few combos in order to at least either knock Maeve's ass out or kill her. And she was taking those shots and eating them. For instance, going back to season 2, when we first see Stormfront, when Homelander zaps Stormfront, just with intent to kill. I wouldn't really say intent to kill, more like intent to fuck. But when she was laser my tits, when he zapped her, we saw her skin crackle and start to burn and start to blister. He does the same thing to Maeve. He literally blasts Maeve with, I would assume in that situation, because he was pissed, 100% of his optic blast. And it hits her in the chest, leaves no mark whatsoever. And then she starts redirecting it with the gauntlets Wonder Woman style. Then she's the first person in the entire show to draw blood. She breaks his nose and then impales his ear with a piece of metal, which requires a shit ton of force in order to do. So strength-wise, she is up there with Homelander. Now we see him get the better of her for a second, where he takes his thumb and just kind of gouges out her eye. She doesn't back down. She continues whooping his ass and is even able to knock him on the ground and incapacitate him for a few seconds, where she then tackles Soldier Boy out the window, which is she hits him with that double punch, and you see the shockwave from it as he gets just blasted back and knocked on his back. And in that moment, she had a choice. I can continue attacking this fucker and kill him, or when she looks over at Starlight and realizes that basically everyone had accepted their fate because Soldier Boy was just going to detonate and wipe out the upper levels of Vought Tower, she chose to tackle him out the window. She tackled him out the window and they fell however many stories before he detonated, and then she still survived. Now, I see a lot of people online that are like, how could Maeve have survived if Soldier Boy reverted her back to being a human? It takes a while. When he blasts Kimiko, he knocks her through a full wall, and then her powers stop working, which means it takes a few seconds before the power or the energy basically burns all the Vought V out of your system. In regards to Crimson Countess, and I would say most of the members of Payback, Noir as well, doesn't look like they were bulletproof. It looks as though they had abilities, but their abilities didn't exactly... No, I take that back. Noir was bulletproof because he walks through the hail of gunfire that Butcher had ready for him when he was stalking Butcher and the rest of the boys in that house. Butcher had set up bombs and other little booby traps, and one of the booby traps was like a buckshot that was basically, once you get close, it would explode like a trip mine. So Noir was bulletproof to a certain extent, but the rest of Payback wasn't. We saw when Swaddle took off into the sky, he essentially got blown up with an RPG. We saw one of the TNT twins got shot in the leg. So there's difference in levels of durability in regards to the soups. Since Maeve was essentially almost, I would say, right below Homelander in terms of strength, I would say that Maeve's durability was also really high up there. So she ate that blast. Like, the blast wasn't going to be enough to kill her. But when she fell and she hit the ground, that's when the V burned out of her system and she reverted back to being a human. Because, like, we see her just, like, basically, like, in that alleyway, just completely fucked up. That's basically the V is gone, and all of that pain and injury that she essentially accumulated from fighting Homelander and then from falling at the top of Vought Tower and landing in that alleyway, that basically all accumulated at the same time, and her body was like, nah, bro, we need rest. Like, we human again. We're gonna have to go lay the fuck down. But yeah, like, fantastic. Absolutely well done. I will never stop saying that I think that The Boys TV show is going to end up being the example people can point to when they say this is how you do an adaptation that does its own thing really well, where the adaptation can take the characters, improve upon the characters, add their own spin, and the people who are fans of the comic books can go, I fucking enjoy that. That is fantastic writing. That's actually better than what we received on print back in the day. But yeah, woo! Queen Maeve. I'm hoping that she comes back, even though I don't think that she will come back. I think this may be the last time that we see Maeve in general, where she's just like, yeah, I'm done with the superhero shit. Y'all got it. Goodbye. But I would hope that she would come back in some capacity where, like now that we know that people who have powers can essentially get their powers back by taking a shot of V, it's 100% up there that if Maeve needs to come back, they can just shoot her up with V and turn her into a soup again, and she can come back and kick Homelander's ass. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it? Let me know in the comments down below whether or not you fuck with Queen Maeve. I absolutely do. Definitely my favorite knockoff Wonder Woman we've ever had, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.